of a big room, and our sound system isn't, oh, I think that turned it off.
Oh,
Yep. So,
there it was.
it was.
Oh, sorry.
Is that working now?
Testing, testing. Can you hear me now? A little bit better?
What just happened? It just turned on for a second. Tech support.
Some technical assistance. Is this better? Yes. All right. Okay, I think we've got this figured out. All right, I'm Karen Ogden. I am our Public Information Officer at DEQ. We really appreciate all of you being here and are impressed with the turnout, and we recognize that this issue is very important to each and every one of you, and that's why you're here. So our priority tonight is to make sure that all of you have an opportunity to ask questions. Hopefully you've already chatted with some of our agency folks during the open house, and we want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to provide comment. So we are going to try to really stick to our schedule to make that happen. If you haven't had a chance to sign in yet, please take a moment to do so. Jennifer there can help you out with that. If you give us your email address, we'll add you to our interested parties list, and that's the quickest way to get updates from us. And if you plan to provide oral comment tonight, please check the box on the sign-in sheet because we'll be calling you up in the order that you signed up. So we are going to start out with Kenley Stone. She's one of our environmental scientists with our Open Cut program at the Montana Department of Environmental Quality. She's going to walk us through the agenda and then give an overview of the permit application and the permitting process. And then we'll move into the question and answer session of the meeting. And in the interest of time, I will introduce our panelists at that time. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Kenley.
Hi, my name is Kenley Stone. I'm DEQ Open Cut scientist. I am the one who will be reviewing the application, or who has been reviewing already and reading all your comments. Okay, I don't think this one is on. Can you hear me if I talk like that? Okay. Okay. I will try to keep this right here. I am Kenley Stone. I am with the DEQ.
Oh, now you got nothing.
Open Cut. Shoot. Okay, sorry. Hopefully this will work because my voice is not very loud. So we are here tonight for several reasons. We are here to share some information about the Open Cut proposed mining operation that was submitted by Riverside. And we are here so we can hear from you. Our goal is to obtain public comment tonight, and in the coming weeks that will inform the permit review process. So tonight I'm going to present some basic information on several topics before we open things up for the question and answer. I'm going to talk about the Open Cut Mining Act and the permitting process, the proposed Adonis site permit application specifically, the public meeting process, and the subsequent process, or what happens next. So for the Open Cut Mining Act and permitting process, the law that regulates gravel mining operations in Montana is called the Open Cut Mining Act. The act began in the 1970s with the primary purpose then and now that mine land is reclaimed and the property returned to a productive use. The law has evolved over time, and the legislature most recently made changes to the act in 2009 and 2013. The administrative rules that direct the application of the law were most recently revised in March of 2016. Essentially, the Open Cut Act and rules are roadmaps that tell the DEQ and the applicant what is required to obtain a permit. These requirements are focused on protecting the environment with the final goal of the land being reclaimed to a productive use. Throughout the permitting process, DEQ must administer the act and rules in an objective and an impartial manner. This means that the DEQ does not have a bias for any proposed open cut operation, and DEQ does not have a bias against any proposed open cut operation. Throughout the process, DEQ's permitting decisions must be solidly based on the requirements of the act and rules. As a result, DEQ must disapprove an application if the proposed operation does not meet the requirements of the act and rules. On the other hand, DEQ must approve an application if the proposed operation meets the requirements of the act and rules. It is important to note that DEQ Open Cut section reviews information in the proposed permit to ensure it complies with the Open Cut Mining Act and the associated rules. We understand that what you know about the proposed mining operation is what Riverside Contracting wrote in its application. Please keep in mind that DEQ and the other government representatives here are in a similar situation. What we currently know is what Riverside wrote in its application. We need your knowledge of local issues and conditions so we can require Riverside Contracting to revise its application to resolve any substantial issues that you raise. There may be aspects of the proposed operation that you have questions or concerns about that are not addressed in the application. And they're not mentioned in the permit, that are potentially considered under other laws and are the jurisdiction of another entity. For example, counties and the Department of Transportation are involved in right-of-way, haul road, and traffic and safety issues. DEQ air quality is involved in permitting the asphalt plant emissions, and DNRC addresses any water right issues at the site. For this reason, we've asked the operator as well as other representatives from these other agencies and programs to try to answer your questions this evening about those aspects of a proposed permit. So, I think a lot of you have seen this map over here. So the site, the dotted site is this purple boundary, and this is located approximately 1 mile east of Shepherd. The site is to be accessed directly off of Shepherd Road East. The proposed site boundary is comprised of 74 acres. The site is located on a bench above Crooked Creek. The site has many internal irrigation ditches that belong to the landowner, as well as a pond in the northeast corner. The site's southern boundary is bordered by the Billings Bench Water Association irrigation canal. So the application itself contains an asphalt plant and a crusher that are proposed to be located in the center of the site. The fuel storage is proposed to be located at the south end of the site near this residence and this corner right here. The permit application specifies a November 2035 reclamation deadline. The proposed post-mining land uses include rangeland and pasture, or pasture, and a drainage ditch or swale. The entire permit application, including the proposed site map, can be viewed on the DEQ Open Cut section website. And we also have copies of the majority of the application, not all supplemental documents, but if you wanted to have a copy of the permit application and the maps, we have a bunch of those here. The web address and how to view the permit application are located on the public comment form. So for the dotted site open cut mine permit application, we've got a flow chart here that has the important dates on it. And I have a copy of this as well. So on February 5th, 2019, we received a permit application from Riverside. The application was deemed complete on February 11th, 2019. What is not on the flow chart is that I was on site to conduct a site inspection on November 16th of 2018, and I wrote an inspection report from what I saw on that visit. And the purpose of that visit was a pre-application meeting with Riverside. We were also back on site today to just revisit it and look at the houses surrounding the area and what perspective they have of the operation, the proposed operation. One of the many support documents that the operator must include is a list of all surface landowners within a half a mile of the proposed site. The Open Cut Act requires that landowners within a half a mile be notified of the proposed open cut operation, and those landowners may request a public meeting. The notification is required within 15 days from the complete letter, or February 26, 2019. 45 days from the complete letter is the time frame that the Open Cut Act states DEQ receives requests for a public meeting, March 28, 2019. The Act requires DEQ to hold a public meeting if the greater of 10 or 30% of the landowners request a meeting. 23 requests, or 30%, were received on or before March 28, 2019. Therefore, the Open Cut Mining Act requires the DEQ hold a public meeting within 30 days. So that brings us to right now. As I mentioned earlier, DEQ's purpose this evening is to gather public comment, to gain local information that is not available in the application, to assist in a review and evaluation of the Donna's site permit application. We welcome your comments, as they will help to ensure that the proposed application and the plan of operation would be in compliance with the requirements of the Open Cut Mining Act. The Open Cut Mining Act requires DEQ to hold a public meeting and to do one of three things within 30 days of the April 27, 2019 deadline. So no later than April 27, 2019, DEQ must send the operator either a letter indicating that DEQ will subject the application to extended review, or a deficiency letter listing all the elements of the application that do not meet the requirements of the Open Cut Mining Act, or a letter approving the permit, if DEQ finds no deficiencies in the application. In any case, DEQ will copy the interested parties on whichever letter it sends to the operator. April 27th is only a week and a half from today. Therefore, Friday, April 26th is the recommended deadline to submit public comments, so the program has time to review your input. You probably want to know what is extended review. In the week and a half following this meeting, the DEQ will evaluate the comments received. The evaluation is to determine if the comments reveal substantial issues not adequately satisfied in the proposed plan of operation. If there are substantial issues raised in the comments, the DEQ may subject the application to extended review. So following the subsequent process, if Open Cut Mining permit is approved, the operator is still under the obligation to comply with any other applicable federal, state, county, or local laws and regulations. So even if they get an open cut permit, it doesn't mean that they don't need to obtain other permits from other agencies. So they may need to obtain other permits, licenses, or approvals required from any part of the operation. For example, a road access permit, stormwater permit, water rights, air permit, etc. A citizen who observes activities they believe to violate the permit can file a complaint with the DEQ Enforcement Division. And that number is 444-0379. DEQ investigates each complaint, and if it determines that the operator has violated its permit, DEQ can take enforcement action to correct the problem. An enforcement action may also include the assessment of penalties. Now is the time scheduled for the question and answer session, so I'll hand the microphone back to Karen.
All right, thank you, Kenley. So, yes, we're going to get started with the question and answer period. So I'm going to introduce our panelists. you know Kenley now, environmental scientist with DEQ's Open Cut program. We have Dan Freeland with DEQ's Water Quality Program, also a scientist. We have scientist Rhonda Payne with our Air Quality Bureau. And we also have fish, wildlife, and actually I'm going to take a step back here with our permitting program. We have Nicole Newman. She is with our DEQ Open Cut permitting program. Also with us this evening, we have Chris Cronin, who is the section supervisor of our Open Cut program. And we have Katie Garson-Forba, also an environmental scientist with Open Cut. And Jennifer Scartmet, who many of you met on your way in, also a permitting specialist. We also have Fish, Wildlife, and Parks with us this evening, Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks. We have fisheries biologist Mike Ruggles and wildlife biologist Megan O'Reilly. We also have the Montana Department of Natural Resources and Conservation with us this evening, represented by Christine Schweigert with their Water Quality Division. Water rights, excuse me. And then we have, I'm sure many of you know, Tim Miller with the Yellowstone County Roads Division. And we also have Stacy Hill with Riverside Contracting, the permit applicant. And we have Paul Lemire with Tetra Tech, who is a consultant with Riverside Contracting. So I'll just remind you that this is our question and answer session. We'll go until 7:30, and then we'll transition right into public comments. We want to make sure that everyone has a chance to ask questions. So please try to limit this to questions as opposed to comments, and try to keep them succinct, and we'll try to move around the room. I'm going to be passing the microphone around. And as I and Kenley learned, it's kind of tricky. You have to talk right into the middle of it. And so we always like to remind folks, don't talk over anybody else, and be sure to only represent yourself in your comments, of course. So with that, we will go ahead and get started. And I see a gentleman here in the green sweatshirt. You may have a question? Okay. All right. Okay.
My question is to Riverside. I noticed I went through your application, and I noticed you don't have a wash plant, but yet you're going to have an asphalt plant. Why is that?
We don't intend to have a wash plant on this site.
Well, if you're going to make asphalted concrete, you have to have a wash plant to clean it off, or you won't get a continuity, or the matrix will not stick to the aggregate. I used to be an inspector on one of those asphalted plants. So I think this is something you need to consider, because asphalt is roughly 90% aggregate, well graded, that's held together by a petroleum matrix. And if the matrix doesn't adhere to the aggregate, when they put it on the road and compact it, it'll separate, and that's where you get your potholes and everything else.
Now, can everyone in the back hear the question? Why won't there be a wash?
Here, I'll clarify it for him. I'm the operations manager for Riverside,
Yes, sir?
and no, we don't need a wash plant to wash our asphalt aggregates anymore. For screening operations, they're tremendously better than they were 20 years ago.
So your dust abatement takes care of that.
we got a bag house that rejects the bag house fines. We don't need no wash plant for nothing.
Well, it's been 38 years since
Yeah.
I was an inspector on one, so
Yeah.
I'm a little,
And our specs on the
Obsolete.
200 are like less than 8% to make asphalt. They're cleaner than they used to.
okay,
All
thank you.
right. Thank you. Other questions? All right.
My question is to Paul Lemire. One of the portions of the application that is most incomplete is the details around dewatering. And it's my understanding that Tetra Tech's assessment should provide modeling to help us understand the rate at which the volume of water, how many gallons per minute will be coming out of the site. Is that assessment available, and will it be made available for us to review?
Yes, we did a groundwater model, I submitted that to Riverside, and that should be available shortly, once they submit it to DEQ. And once it goes to DEQ, my understanding that it'll be public on your website, is that correct?
So, because this,
Because the study wasn't submitted for the initial application, it can't be submitted now until we have a deficiency letter ready to go out, because we haven't had a chance to look at it, you haven't had a chance to look at it. So it will not be available to review until we ask for that to come in. And then once it is in, it should be available for the public to review.
But I can tell you what we found.
I have a question about that. If that one, why wasn't that submitted with the permit? And if it's,
Let's let, Mr. Lemire finish his answer to the previous question, and then we'll get to yours.
I can tell you what we found is that, basically groundwater in this area in the alluvial aquifer, which we're standing on right now, flows to the northeast, across the Donna's property.
And Paul, if you can talk right.
Across the Donna's property, and then it discharges, right down into Crooked Creek, okay? When they mine the property, they're gonna dewater the property, but in the whole mining area, but that water they take out is gonna put back on the northeast and east side of the pit. So in Crooked Creek, at the end of the day, there won't be any difference. So all the water will still drain down into Crooked Creek. On the other hand, the mining, excuse me? So it's a wash when the water goes down into Crooked Creek in that area. So there won't be any impacts from the mine to the north and the east.
so my question was, why wasn't that completed and handed in? And if it's not in, how is the public supposed to make comment on what that study says? It looks a lot like that information is being hidden from the public until after our commenting period is done.
We got the results from Paul this morning. I got the hard copies, and he's going to be providing me with an email copy. And so we can certainly provide email copies, after I get that, to be able to pass along.
Hey, can I say a real quick follow-up? This is just for the DEQ. How is the permit application complete without a groundwater study?
The review is not complete yet. It's still in the process, and it cannot be completed until I see that study as well. So,
Hi, Kinley, Jackie Pappas, quick clarification question. You referenced that there would be a deficiency letter issued before you could review Paul's hydrogeological study. Is that a commitment that a deficiency letter is going to be issued as a result of this?
I've been in the process of reviewing the application already prior to this, and I've read all the comments that have been submitted up until now, and
I don't know if I'm supposed to say it or not, but there will be a deficiency forthcoming.
Do you mind just trying that one more time, because we got a little choppy with our mic.
so I'm in the process of reviewing the application still and writing that there are deficiencies within the application, one of which is the lack of a hydrogeologic study. So yes, there will be a deficiency letter.
Is that done by
This is Carl Bender, and I have 40 years in the mining industry. I asked DEQ, have you ever received a mining permit that you've not had a deficiency list? On behalf of the contractor or whatever, I think it's unfair to give the impression that this is one of the first times that deficiency letters go out.
It is rare, but on occasion we do get applications that have no deficiencies with them. They meet all the requirements, and once they're reviewed and we have our time frame to look at them, they have been approved. It does happen every once in a while, but the majority of the time there are deficiencies.
Questions for the engineers there, doing the study on the water. I don't think anybody in here, other than maybe Fish and Game, is worried about the water in Crooked Creek. We're worried about our wells, our springs. I have springs on two sides that will not parallel when they dig the hole 15 to 20 feet deep.
I was just explaining in the water, it's gonna go down to Crooked Creek.
I don't want the water going down to Crooked Creek.
As
It
it
has to go
goes
into my
down,
wells
it feeds the
first.
springs that are on the north and east side also.
It has to go into my springs first.
It goes that direction and there'll be no change.
Okay, you've mapped out the old Shepherd drain?
Uh-huh.
Have
We
you?
have the drains in there.
No. The old Shepherd drain, before there was ever a drainage ditch in Shepherd.
No, I haven't.
Okay, it looped right into that farm,
Mm-hmm.
and out of the farm, onto my property, down my springs. And he's going to mine that out. That's gonna cut off my spring water.
But he's gonna put the water back right above your spring.
How is he gonna put it back above my spring?
That's where the water's gonna drain to.
He's to the west.
What's he gonna do, pump the water uphill?
You're to the
Put it in a
west.
pond?
You're to the west.
Right,
Your water that comes to your spring comes from the west.
not all of it.
Most
A lot of it comes right down that drain there.
Well, most of it does. Comes that
Well,
direction.
that's most of it. The other spring doesn't. The other spring's on the north side. Okay, he's gonna mine down to the, you keep calling it, clay, which is actually shale.
Right, that's correct.
Okay. That's not gonna be charged to springs. And he's gonna take his spring and move it back 2,100 feet.
But all the water that comes in that direction still hits that property, goes across it, and goes into the same.
Maybe what you really should do is look at the old Shepherd drain log when they dug the new drains.
We could do that.
There is no way that water drain runs just one way. And when you drain that water, it's gonna suck this water that way. And this isn't good water, and we have good water over there.
Yes, we do.
In our wells and in our streets.
I don't need that. You know, I reviewed the application sent in by Riverside, and on page 8, they give the maximum water surface is 7 feet, and they're gonna excavate down to 20 feet. That's 13 feet of groundwater that's gone. Now, what is 13, when you lower your aquifer 13 feet, what's that gonna do to everybody? That's gonna move out way far, and another thing is, you're not gonna have the recharge from the irrigation, but you'll get some from precipitation. You're gonna be taking all that water out of storage under other people's property. And I live down east of there, and the flow does go northeast there, but as you get south, across Shepherd Road East, it starts turning and heading towards the north.
Well, we show it all going to the northeast right
I
through there.
disagree with that.
That's what the data
It needs
shows.
to be studied.
What happens, I was gonna explain, there is an impact to the east, to the west and the south, and it lowers the water table about 2 to 3 feet.
Not if you lower it 13 feet, it's not going to.
What's that? Well, it lowers the water table at the mine site all the way down, that's true. But when you get away, the water table doesn't get that much lower.
I'm going to do a quick reminder here to help out Kim, our court reporter. Be sure to speak one person at a time, because otherwise she can't catch it and then your comments get lost. So I have a question here that we're going to do, and then I see a hand back there where we haven't been yet.
Thank you. Dixie Osborne. I live 1,400 feet from the proposed mine. What steps will DEQ take to prevent any damage to the quality and quantity of water I now appreciate? How does DEQ assist me in the protection from adverse effects caused by this pit? And I want to know the person who is recording that test well data right now, and is it weekly?
Anybody?
Was that directed to me? What was the?
The first
Can you
question.
repeat the first question?
DEQ, what steps will prevent any damage to the quality and quantity of water I now appreciate? And how does DEQ assist me in the protection from adverse effects caused by the pit? And who is the person actually recording the test water, well water levels now? The name of the person.
Okay, so the DEQ, it is the DEQ's responsibility to protect groundwater and surface water quality and quantity. And it is up to Riverside
To explain.
in their application how they will do that. And if it does not appear that it's been
Explain.
sufficiently in their application, I will write a deficiency along those lines to explain it further. And as far as testing wells, or I'm not sure what you mean by that.
Measuring.
Wells?
Yeah, core test wells on the site right now that they're monitoring. Who's checking those?
The question was test wells, who's checking those?
So Riverside is, I think, has placed some monitoring wells on site, and I don't know who's checking those. Maybe you are.
We just put those wells in to get the data for our groundwater model and see what the direction of flow rate was. We did it on a one-time basis so we could get the model together.
Just once?
Well, so far, yeah, that's all we've done.
Does groundwater level change over time?
Yes, it does. And we use data from existing wells in the neighborhood in the Shepherd area that have been monitored by either the USGS or the Montana Bureau of Lines of Data, Geology, and we have that data from them.
Who's checking the water in those wells right now?
No one.
Thank you.
All right, we have a question back here.
Dixie partially addressed my question, but what I would like to know is, you said that all of that water will go back to Crooked Creek. How do we know that when it goes back, it doesn't contain mining pollutants? And my other question is that when it does eventually get permitted and damage our wells, what is our recourse? We have had our well tested, so we know its current quality and quantity. And if that is altered, who do I contact and what will be done?
I don't think I need this either. Oh, can we?
Sorry, can you repeat the first part of the question again? I think that multiple people need to respond here.
So that gentleman was saying that when they're done, they will put the water back into Crooked Creek and it will be a wash. What I understood that to say was that it will be a wash quantity-wise. How do we know that it doesn't now contain environmental pollutants as it goes back into Crooked Creek?
I think that's the question for Stacy or Paul.
We haven't studied the water quality at all. So we don't,
And will we be doing that?
I don't know, but generally.
If you are responsible for ensuring that they don't damage our watersheds, or as it says in the application, not altering the quality or quantity of any of our water systems, don't you think that you're responsible for doing some pre-testing?
I'm not sure that's required in the permit, maybe.
Montana law.
How do you know it's changed if you don't test before?
So this ideally would have been all submitted prior to the application with hydrogeologic study and a plan for monitoring. And since we don't have that on hand, we need to have it, and we will be asking for that in a deficiency letter. So there will need to be a water quality monitoring plan in place.
Thank you.
Okay, the second part of my question was, we have the data for our own personal well. If we do sustain damage, who do we contact and what is our recourse?
Typically, when another water user, someone with water right. Can you hear me?
And Christine, I'm going to introduce you once more. This is Christine Schweigert with the Water
Water rights.
Water Rights Division of the Department of Natural Resources and Conservation.
Yes. So usually, when you have a water right and another person causes adverse effect to your water right, that person has a water right also. And so you could do a complaint against them. In this case, if they do not have a water right because they don't have a beneficial use of the water, there's nothing that DNRC can do about it.
So does that mean if they ruin our wells, we're just up a creek, forget it?
Well,
Is that
DNRC
what
would,
it is?
well, I don't know the answer to that question. DNRC looks at your water right as having a source, a point of diversion, and a place of use. If your source is this alluvial aquifer and you have not completed your well all the way to the bottom of that aquifer, then you may have what we would consider an inadequate diversion, and you may be expected to deepen your well to access the water that you have a right to at that point.
I want to make sure that everyone, that we're spreading this around the room, and I see a couple hands back here who haven't had a chance yet.
I got a few more things to add, please.
Oh, okay, sure. Thank you. Sorry.
It might be a civil issue where you have to take them, whoever's drawing your well down to the point you can't use it, to a district court, a civil case, and it would be up to you to prove that they are the ones that are drawing down your well. So I recommend background water level monitoring, which you have done.
So would a class action be an option?
I'm not an attorney. I just know that DNRC does not have enforcement authority on that.
All right, we had a question in here somewhere. Okay.
Hi, my name is David Shimmick. I have a question for Yellowstone County Roads. I guess specifically, they just put in a new intersection approach that's offset from Fry, which doesn't conform to any principles of engineering that I'm aware of. And I also have a question about what their haul route is going to be. Everyone here knows our track team runs that route. But in addition, I went and pulled a tape measure, kind of crude, and I looked it up, and none of the corners meet minimum turning standards for lowboys. So the only way to negotiate a right-hand turn is to go into oncoming traffic, which I also took a look, and apparently there's a Montana code about driving on the right side of the road unless there's obstruction in the way. And I guess my question is there a transportation study going to be conducted prior to allowing a haul on this? My rough estimate's 1.5 million cubic yards. When you fluff it up a little bit, ends up being about 200,000 round-trip loads, assuming an 18-yard belly dump. Quite an impact on the roads. I'm just curious what the transportation plan is by Yellowstone County to make sure we still have a road to drive on, and that it's going to be safe for pedestrians as well.
School buses.
We have not received any traffic plans or anything or haul routes yet with Riverside Contracting because the process is not completed yet. We did allow an improvement for the existing approach was there. It was permitted. We've done appropriate signage for it. It's the existing permit.
Can you please speak up?
We did allow a permit for the existing approach was there to be approved. The signage was changed up to allow for that. We're not sure on the haul route yet. We haven't had that part of the conversation because the permit hasn't been issued yet, so we'll address that at the time that it comes. As far as the intersections, these are basic farm to Market County roads. The intersections have been there and been usable for some time. We have roads like that all through the county that are used by heavy traffic day in and day out.
Not my track kids on them?
All right, so again, a reminder to, I know that this is an issue that obviously is very important to everyone here, but we do kind of lose track of things if we have multiple people talking at the same time. So, did you have anything else you wanted to add to that?
Done unless there's further questions.
Okay, I saw a hand go up right here.
I can address the track and cross-country issue right now. When I sent the letter out, asking people about concerns before we even applied for the permit, one of the most common responses that I got back was the concern for the track and cross-country team. So I immediately contacted the school. I've spoken with Mrs. Riley, who is the coach for both of those teams. She indicated that that's only one of several routes that they use. And that it would not be a problem that as we determine our schedules based on the upcoming projects, that we would be able to coordinate with the school and work around each other. So I did contact the school and make sure that they were aware of the situation and that we could coordinate that type of thing.
Okay, I wanted to ask a question, go back to the water again. I read the plan over pretty carefully, I think, and if I saw it or read it correctly, it looked like the water started in October. Seems to me completely inappropriate in an area like Shepherd, where there is a lot of seasonal use of irrigation water, to start guessing about what water flow will be through the entire year, based on what you do from October through March, when you're avoiding where most of the water is. So would it be a deficiency to submit a plan that didn't address water flow in the water table through the entire year? It would seem that way to me. Would DEQ please care to comment?
So we do need to know the high and low water table levels throughout. We probably wouldn't need the entire year, but we would need it to be captured probably at least 6 months, so that in the high flows and the low flows over, say, March through October, so that those highs and lows could be captured. I don't necessarily think it would have to be an entire year, but that's something we would have to discuss and see what they submit.
Hi. I was reading through this and I saw on one of the last pages of this document under site-specific summary and notes that the Shepherd School response site, because of the feedlot here, apparently has a pentachlorophenol and nitrate plume present in the area. If you guys start digging down, is there a potential that that's going to be breached and further contaminate or add additional contamination into the water that's then re-discharged into Crooked Creek and further contaminate or introduce contaminants into the existing wells in springs? Thanks.
So I had mentioned that in the inspection report for Stacy or Riverside to look into, and I'm not sure if they have done that. But
I think you got a response from the Superfund site people, and she said that there was no threat of the plume at that location because there's a difference in the groundwater flow at that location. It actually flows south at that school site, so in this area, and so it goes in a completely different direction.
I had a question about, at the end of the permit on the Montana well log data from the WGIC, almost all of the well locations, the latitude and longitudes, have been changed from the original reports and the reports that you can look up. Why were those well locations changed from what's officially on the GWIC website?
Most of the GWIC sites are actually incorrect. They either predate GPS information or it's just incorrect. So most of those were listed an actual lot based on like the cadastral site or something like that. So I field verified the actual locations of those particular wells.
So you field verified them?
Yeah, if you look at...
So how come the Gunlocks well is positioned in the middle of the Osborne property in the permit?
When I visited the Gunlocks, because I went and spoke with them, and they said it was located, right by the house, and so, it might be off as far as where I put the dot on the map, but...
enough to move it inside of the 1,000-foot requirement?
No, because the Gunlocks are, I think, 1,200 feet from the property.
The property length of Gunlocks is only 1,300 feet, so their house is not on the edge of the property, so that's just not possible.
Okay, I'll recheck all of that information. But yeah, that's why those like locations were changed. If you see, like one of those, the GPS coordinates that it gave for the owner of that lot, they were, clear over into the subdivision.
Just like your field verification put the well on the wrong property?
We had a question over here.
Yes, ma'am. Oh, excuse me, sorry about that. This is, I would like to ask DEQ, what is your mission statement for us?
I knew I was gonna get asked that question. I don't have it memorized, but it is in general to protect the environment for now and for future generations.
Okay, now, I have here Montana Code annotated for 2017. It's 82-4-434 3L, and I'm going to read L. It states that the surface water and groundwater will be given appropriate protection consistent with state law from deterioration of water quality and quantity that may arise as a result of open cut operation. So, to answer this lady's question back here, who do we go to? We should go back to DEQ, isn't that correct? Based on this law?
Yes, it is our duty to protect water quality and quantity, and the way that we do that is to make sure that Riverside explains how they will protect water quality and quantity.
I'm going to hold you to that.
May I ask, who is your specialist on water? Is it a regular geologist that is a specialty hydrologist, or is it a scientist?
We'll come over to you next.
Hi. I lost my train of thought, I'm sorry. There was a gal back there earlier that referenced the water testing that she had done of her own well. I'm assuming that was a personal cost that she took on. And so I'm wondering, is there a process in place that, like, so after, if this permit goes through and the project starts, and then, 2 years down the line or 6 months or whatever, she decides to test her well again, I'm assuming, because I don't know much about this, I'm assuming that's a cost that she takes on. Is there a process or a rulemaking or something that involves baseline water testing? And is that a cost that landowners or property owners have to take on? Or is that something that is somewhere within this, within the responsibility of Riverside?
So, as far as costs for people doing testing on their well, that I'm not aware of any program that DEQ has to reimburse anybody for testing. However, with the monitoring wells that are or will be placed or are in place on site, Riverside should be providing a monitoring plan and monitoring those wells regularly and submitting that data to DEQ for us to evaluate. And if they're placed correctly, they would show the baseline data as well as what happens over time and across the site as well.
You said nobody was monitoring them though, remember?
We haven't received the hydrogeologic study yet, so I can't.
Our next question was right here.
I just wanted to know if your specialist with the water is a geologist, hydrologist. There are a lot of scientists in a lot of fields, and they're all scientists, but is it a hydrologist scientist like we have for the state here by the airport? And the other question was, Fry Road, have you ever stuck one of those traffic count for just common use on that, and has that been reported somewhere for us?
So for the
So we kind of got two questions there, one for Kenley and one, I believe, for Tim.
Open Cut does not have a hydrologist on staff, but our bureau is with the coal program, and there are several hydrologists that work for the coal program, and we have been using them to evaluate some of hydrogeologic studies that have come in, so we will be asking further assistance on this as well.
I'd have to check and see if we do have a traffic count on Fry Road. If we don't, it's not a big issue to do a traffic study there. But I don't know off the top of my head whether we do or not. It's very possible we do.
Thank you.
Wes Osborne, I live on East Shepherd Road, 1,400 feet from the Donnis Pit, okay? According to the application, during reclamation, you have two possibilities. Number one is as a wetlands with ponds and lakes. Number two is to reclaim the land a minimum of 3 foot above high water, okay? According to the application, it states we're not doing either. That's the way I read the application. What it says they're gonna do is daylight this site to the north and east. Can somebody explain to me what daylighting this sort to the north and the east actually means? Because I think I know what it means, and I just want to see if you agree with me or not.
Well, the intent for the mining of this site is to obviously it goes below grade, and we begin at the north side, and we're going to mine as large of an area as possible to begin with at that north end so that we stay above the water table as long as possible. And then get to a certain point where then we will drop below. We'll leave a low spot at that north end so that the water, any groundwater that runs off would be directed to that area so that it could settle any sediment that might be picked up in the runoff. And then also recharge the groundwater at that location. And then the mining would progress then to the south. And then as we reclaim the property, you know, we're gonna have the stockpiles on the east and west sides of the property, and that's in order to provide both sound and visual barriers for the people that are concerned about that. And then we also, upon reclamation, the steepest slopes that we can have on the site are 3 to 1, and by the time you have that slope plus the offset from the stockpile areas, which are typically roughly 100 to 150 feet. So, you know, it's gonna work back into the site. And then upon reclamation, the idea is to have it more of a stadium type area where it'll be lowest in the middle, come up on the sides. Obviously, at the south end, it won't be daylighted at all in that location. We have a 50-foot buffer that we have to maintain off of the Billings Bench irrigation canal. And so we would create kind of a ditch that would wind through the property, and then connect it with the low spot that's at the northeast end of the property. That's the plan. So that is why it would be daylighted, meaning it would connect to the elevation of the lowest spot of mining at that point to the outlet. And that would be upon reclamation, not during the mining.
We intend to be here a long time, okay? Reclamation affects us, and that's all there is to it, okay? The permit says that you're gonna keep the topsoil. The permit also states that you're allowed to sell the overburden. You're asking to sell the overburden. If you sell the gravel, you sell the overburden, you've got a few fines left that you drop into the pit, okay? The application also states you intend to haul nothing back into this site, okay? So what daylighting means to me is that you end up with a slope from south to north, and then what you'll end up with is a 75-acre swamp that drains everything through ditches from the south to the north and dumps it into Crooked Creek. That's the way I understand daylighting. Am I accurate or not? It's a lot more complicated than that, isn't it? But it's not allowed. It's illegal. It's
All right, we have another, did anyone wish to respond before I go on to the next question on our panel? Okay, we've got another question back here, and then we had one in here, and then we are going to need to move on to our public comment section because we've got lots of folks, and so we want to make sure we have time to get through everyone.
So I have been to the site twice. I came once and met with Stacy in November. This was before the application was submitted. It's called a pre-application meeting request. So at that time, there was no application for me to verify anything. It was just kind of taking the site in and seeing the topography, the vegetation, geology of the site. We went back today just to check out some things that were stated in the application to see how they would play out once they started mining, if and when they start mining.
So my one question to it is, reading through the application, it states that there's no weeds on that property. Except elm tongue, spotted knapweed, goat head, Russian olives are rampant in this area. And so my concern is if we work with the conservation district to keep them off of our place, when the 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts hit here and everything goes airborne, and they're saying they're not on that property when in reality they are, without us checking it to send you a request for a deficiency, we'd be trespassing. So how are we to verify that, to do the double check on it, when we can't get there? And we know it's there. And so then it's gonna create, with any disturbed soil, it's gonna create an increase in weeds in the area. What are we gonna do when that hits our property? Who do we contact?
The county they have to have a county weed plan, and so the county would be responsible for.
But who do we get to see that? Because according to them, there's no weeds there.
Yeah. So the majority of the site is cropland, and when I would have to look at my inspection report to see if I noted any weeds on the site. Today, when we were slightly outside of the permit boundary, I noticed some hound's tongue, but I don't remember if I saw that in the middle.
If they've got a weed plan, are they gonna wash their trucks in and out? Because that leads back to one of the gentleman's first questions, they're not gonna have a wash plant on site. So if they're not gonna wash trucks in and out, if they're not gonna have a wash plant, what are they gonna do to mitigate our, weed occurrence?
Weed control is part of the plan, but Stacy can probably tell you more in depth how they control them.
I've been in contact with Joe Lockwood, who's the county weed coordinator, and we have plans to go back out to the site once we're in the growing season again. We weren't able to do that this time of year.
Are you gonna do it twice? Cause there's cool season and warm season weeds.
I will do whatever Joe Lockwood asks us to do. And then I usually then would take his recommendations if he has any as far as hiring someone to do weed control on the site for the life of the permit. Because that is something that we usually have as part of our weed plans in writing in a lot of cases and do usually on most of our gravel pits while we're working in them.
Right, we have one more question right here, and I think he's going to go without the mic.
Karen, can you take one more, because this lady's had her hand up for quite a long time as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'd like to know from Riverside how they're going to deal with the buried garbage dump in the northeast corner of the common.
If it's in the northeast part that's in the pink outline, we actually don't have any plans to disturb that area. Because with the springs and the wetland areas that are in there, there's no mining that's gonna occur in that location.
Well, nobody knows how far that buried garbage pit goes. And I have personal knowledge from the previous owner that he used to bury all of his garbage. I mean, I've seen it. I was standing at the pond and watched drops of oil rise to the surface and open up on that small pond. You can walk up there now and see garbage all over that hillside. And that's on the permit, that's where they wanna waste water across there onto private property on the other side and into Crooked Creek.
Well, the idea of wasting the water is just that the water now naturally flows across the site to the northeast, at least what.
Only seasonal does water go across. If you walk up to right now, and there's no water coming off that property.
Correct. But I'm saying a surface runoff, which would, once we, start mining in the area, what I'm saying is that all the water that right now, that would be the direction that it goes. What doesn't infiltrate would go in that direction, and we're just trying to maintain the natural drainage of the site.
So nobody cares about buried
Now,
garbage.
as far as the garbage, I don't know about buried garbage,
You
but
can see it on the surface. There's plenty of evidence lying out.
down in the non-disturbance area, but,
I
as far
haven't
as-
seen any there, and I own the property.
Guys,
It goes all the way up to the top of the hill.
Well, I don't know how you seen it if you weren't there.
I've been there, I was friends
There's
with
none there right
okay,
now.
a reminder, we need one person at a time, and we are moving toward our public comment period. I know you have so many questions about this site and the proposed project, but this is the time when we are going to be able to take the local information that you have that may not be in the permit application and get that on the record so that we can look at it. So it's really important that we get to that, but we did have one final question right here.
I just wanted to clarify, the DEQ's responsibility is to protect our water, surface groundwater wells. And your response was, you're gonna ask Riverside what they're going to do. Ultimately, you are responsible. Riverside can say whatever pacifies you, but you're responsible. And if something happens, we'll be talking to you.
All right, thank you everyone. You've already provided us with a lot of valuable information, and I'm not sure if everyone could hear me a second ago, but we're going into our public comment period, and this is where we need your help. This is where we gather local information about local conditions from you that may not be available in the permit applications and that we may not know. And that information will be used as we determine whether an extended review period is needed. And as Kenley mentioned earlier, we have until April 27th to get back to Riverside Contracting to let them know what the decision is on that. So, and it also, the information that you are providing us tonight will be used to identify any specific deficiencies in Riverside Contracting's permit application that need to be addressed. And recognize also that some of the information you're providing to us tonight, it's the first time we've heard it. So it's sometimes very difficult to provide an immediate answer right here on the spot, but we will be looking at it. So I am going to, one other point. We do have to get back to Riverside on the extended review period by April 27th. So if you want to comment, but you're providing written comment instead of oral comment here tonight, please do get those comments to us by April 26th. And the comment sheet with all of the email and mail information is back on the table if you didn't get that. So we're going to call you forward in the order that you signed up on the sign-in sheet if you said that you wanted to speak. And if you change your mind, just let us know that when we call your name. Kim will be writing down your comments verbatim. Remember that this is a comment period, so we're not taking questions during this. This is to give us your information. And please avoid any debate with audience members. That's going to make things extremely difficult for Kim. And if you're an audience member, please be respectful of those who are giving their testimony. We have a lot of folks to get to here, so each person will have 5 minutes. And Nicole will be over there in the back, will be our time, 3 minutes, okay, because we have a large group. She will be our timekeeper. If that's not enough for you, you have more comments than you can fit in that amount of time, please stay. And when we've gotten through everyone who signed up, we will make sure you get an opportunity to finish what you needed, so let us know. Have I forgotten anything? I set my notes down. She'll be flashing signs there. I believe that that's it, unless anyone has any other notes. Have I forgotten anything? Great. Oh yes, thank you. So when you come to the podium, please state your name clearly and spell it so that Kim can get that information down. And I apologize in advance if I mispronounce anybody's name. So we are going to start with Louise and/or Rachel Garcia. And then after that, we'll have Kathy Schultz, followed by, let's see, we don't have anybody else on that page. Nobody on that. Followed by Jennifer Ingram. So if those folks can please come forward and just go and stand at the, yep. So Nicole will move that forward. We just thought you'd be more comfortable if you had a little podium. In this case, it's a makeshift podium to stand at and set down any papers that you might have. Is this okay, Kim, the way we've got things set up? Okay. So this is Rochelle Garcia.
Okay, I have a big enough voice. If you can't hear me, let me know and I'll raise it. My name is Rochelle Garcia, RACHELLGARCIA. My husband, Louis, better known as Louie. We live a half a mile from this Donis pit, and that's if you take the road. If you go as the bird flies, we're a lot closer. Lack of sleep. I looked into checking on things. Lack of sleep alone, without any other health issues, impairs attention, alertness, concentration, reasoning, and problem solving. This means tired people, driving, having traffic accidents, work accidents. Lack of sleep drops a person's immune system down to 50%. 50% without any other health issues. As we all know, this makes a person much more susceptible to colds, flus, and the common crud, as we call it. But did you know it can also lead to a higher stress factor, heart disease, heart attack, heart failure, irregular heartbeat, high blood pressure, stroke, diabetes, and depression. I didn't know this until I actually did some research. With the Donis pit running 24/7 all year round, year after year after year, the noise factor would definitely be horrific noise pollution, making it impossible to get a decent amount of sleep. In regards to the air pollution, this too is a huge factor. Our grandson has allergies and had an upper respiratory infection earlier this year. Thank goodness he could clear it up without going in the hospital. Our daughter-in-law has heavy allergies and asthma. A longtime friend of ours has COPD. We have friends with heart problems, and the list goes on. If this Donis pit is allowed to exist, we will no longer be able to have any gatherings at our home. No family, no friends, no neighbors, nothing. This is not acceptable life behavior. These air pollutants, and I don't care what they do to control them, they're going to come. There are windy days.
All right, 30 seconds.
These air pollutants cause diseases, so naturally it will be even worse for those who are already battling illnesses and diseases. My husband and I will be forced to abandon our home of 36 years due to no wrongdoing on our part. This situation is totally unacceptable. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Michelle. Kathy Schultz. Kathy, please state and spell your name.
Kathy Schultz, KATHISCHULTZ. I just want to read the DEQ mission statement. The Montana DEQ is charged with protecting a clean and healthy environment as guaranteed to our citizens by our state constitution. Our ultimate goal is to protect public health and to maintain Montana's high quality of life for current and future generations. It seems to me, and especially after all these comments that we've heard here tonight, that the DEQ permit, as it is written, is very generic, and the effects of this gravel pit have not been adequately studied so as to uphold the DEQ mission statement. There needs to be an independent study done on water, the air, the soil, the wildlife, including the beekeeping operation that is in our area that nobody has really addressed that. Before the permit is granted, those things need to be addressed to ensure the safety of our community and to protect our clean and healthy way of life in Shepherd. Let's be forward thinking and not allow something that would have been approved in an earlier, more negligent time to impact our community. This decision will affect our entire community for many years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Okay, Jennifer Ingram.
Jennifer, Jennifer, Ingram is spelled Ingram. My name is Jennifer Ingram. My husband and I live within 1/2 mile of the proposed site for the gravel pit. We have been residents in this community since 1990 and are very upset to find our health and way of life being threatened. First and most important is the fact that placing this gravel pit so close to the Shepherd School, K through 12, and in the middle of a community is extremely inappropriate, and I cannot fathom that anyone who claims to care and support the Shepherd School would even consider doing this. It is a nightmare for us who live in this area. This will indeed affect the health and well-being of our community. Surely there must be a more appropriate location for a gravel pit, somewhere away from the Shepherd School and residential area. I have read horror stories from other people that live near gravel pits, and it is very concerning. They went to similar meetings, just like the one we're at right now, and they left feeling reassured from the meeting that the gravel pit would have little impact on their lives, only to discover living by a gravel pit had a huge adverse effect on their health and quality of life. From my home, I used to smell the feedlot at times, which is located by the Shepherd School. This proposed site will be much closer, and I'm concerned we will be smelling asphalt fumes 24/7. My husband and I are both retired at home most of the time. I'm concerned about the harmful dust escaping from the site and the effects it will have on our health. Not only will we breathe the dust, but it will settle on our soil, garden, raspberry bushes, and fruit trees. Will it even be safe to eat what we grow? Will our wells go dry? Most of us have rather shallow wells. Will our water become polluted? Who will monitor the water table and water quality? If we have to drill our wells deeper due to the asphalt gravel pit, who will bear the expense? We will. I'm also worried about the containment of the polluted water at the site. What will prevent the polluted water from leaking into Crooked Creek and out to the Yellowstone River? Is anyone aware that children fish out of Crooked Creek? What about the noise? Can the noise be contained between 8 and 5? Will the noise of the pit run 24/7? Most of us moved here to enjoy the peace and tranquility. It just isn't right, and it isn't fair. What about the traffic in the large trucks? Will the gravel on the trucks be secure and covered, or will we be subject to broken windshields and danger of gravel and rocks hitting us when we're out walking, biking, and running? Members of the track team, as mentioned earlier, will run, and so do I. I walk and bike these roads.
Right, and our time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. All right, Cass Dugan. And Cass Dugan will be followed by Don Petty and then Jerry Moore.
Cass left.
Cass leave. Okay, then we are to Don Petty, then it will be Jerry Moore, and then Bill Beal.
My name is Dawn Petty, P-A-W-N, P-E-T-T-Y. I live within 1/2 mile of this proposed pit And you've heard many of the same concerns that I have. The air pollution with the dust and the silica in it causing the allergy problems. Several members in my family have allergies. Our shallow wells are going to be a problem. You say they're not going to dry up. It's a big concern of all of ours. The constant noise. Now with the warmer weather coming, I've been thinking about, oh, it'd be so nice to open up the windows and get some fresh air in the summertime. How could we open up windows and get all the silica dust and stuff all night long and the noise from this grass pit? We've got to change our whole plan here. And then the wildlife concerns. Nobody's talked about the wildlife. We have a lot of deer in this area, even a moose now and then. We have pheasants, wild turkeys. We have ducks and geese. And sandhill cranes have been nesting in this drainage of Crooked Creek for over 10 years. What's going to happen to all of those animals? That's why we came out to live in the Shepherd area, because of the tranquility, the natural beauty of the place, not listening to machines out here. And you know, you talk about the pollution from the pit and the asphalt. What about the diesel from these big trucks that are going to be roaring by all the time? All that diesel stink? Come on, let's be realistic.
Thank you, Don. And next up we have Jerry Moore, followed by Bill Beal, and then Forrest Henderson.
Can everybody hear me? Yep. My name is Jerry Moore, M-O-O-R-E with a J. I live 0.52 miles from the Donna site. Now, my concern is groundwater. I used to dabble in groundwater years ago in my younger years. And what we have here is a very, very, very unique aquifer. It was formed during the glacial age, in which the glaciers melted and moved away. It deposited materials that are saturated today, and that's what we're getting our water from. And my concern here is it's a perched water table. That means you have an impermeable layer below, and then you have the water-bearing material, or your aquifer, on top. And it's recharged through precipitation and the irrigation water that comes in from Billings Bridge. Now, if Donna's Pit goes in, we have the opportunity, or not the opportunity, but it may dewater our wells. Now, a lot of people say, well, just drill deeper. There's nothing down below that shale clay. You have to go 400 to 500 feet to the Eagle Bend Formation, which is highly ridden with sodium. And the situation here is, you can get a well in the clay if you do it properly, but you're not going to have enough water to water your lawn. You might be able to do one load wash or a shower, that type of thing. So once we lose our groundwater, it's done. We haul water, and that's it. And I moved into this area because it's very pristine, quiet, and I'm a country boy from Nebraska. So I really hate to see this happen. I'm really concerned about our groundwater. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Jerry. Next up, Bill Beal, followed by Ernest Henderson, and then Sam Gunlock.
My name's Bill Bealey, B-I-E-H-L-E. I live at 5948 Shepherd Road East, so I'm just 3 houses away from the Donna's Pit. Don't steal my water. Don't ruin my air. Work to improve my neighborhood, not destroy it. Do a 5-year study on what digging into my aquifer will do to the environment. What chemicals are under that ground. Do a 3-year study to look for arsenic and asbestos and any PCBs or other poisons that are underground. Don't ruin my water, my air, my land, or my neighbors either. You want to cause all this harm, well, it's your job to protect us. Do a 5-year study to make sure we are protected as a neighborhood. I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you both. Next up, Forrest Henderson, followed by Sam Gunlock and Dixie Osborne.
Y'all hear that? That's the quiet that's gonna disappear. My name's Forrest Henderson. There are 2 R's in Forrest. Henderson is Henderson. I think this project is ill-conceived. I don't think there's been near enough thought given to the springs. I live on Pinto Drive. There's been nobody that's checked the 4 springs that are within a rock throw of my house. Wait a minute. That's to the north and the east. I think maybe that water might be coming toward my springs. I'm not a professional. I can't prove it. My question to you is, when you did your initial site study, how far did you go? Did you include the areas around Pinto Drive and the ponds? Nobody came on my place. When we talk about the roads, oh, they're already in great shape as we break up for spring. We need some more traffic on them. We need to widen those interchanges so that we're not cutting into traffic. We won't worry about the high school kids because they can go somewhere else. And those of you that decide to walk down your street, find a different street because we're taking them over for our trucks. You don't get a choice. Those in this room are going to lose our rights so that a few can be profitable. Your right to throw a punch ends at the tip of my nose. Don't take away my privacy. Don't take away my quiet. Don't take away my freedom. More than one vet in this room, but we've paid the price. Now leave us alone and let her live our lives. Now if you believe all of this is nice and safe and this is secure, you don't have to worry about fumes coming off of the asphalt. You don't have to worry about silica coming out of the dust. You talk to the people in Libby, Montana that believe that same crock of crap. And look at what they're living in. My name's Forrest Henderson. I don't make a lot of money. I've got a little bit. But if this comes to a class action suit, I'm there and my money's on the table. This is bull. And if you want to take away my rights, come ahead. I will fight.
Thank you, Forrest. Next up we have Sam Gunlock, followed by Dixie Osborne and Megan McLean.
My name's Sam Gunlock, S-A-M-G-U-N-L-O-C-K. I have resided in an adjoining farm, and also, that's right next to the Donna's property, for 61 years. There's little I don't know about both farms and the soil.
Can't hear you.
How about now?
There you go.
Okay. I've resided on the adjoining farm and the Donna's property for 61 years. There's little I don't know about both farms as a soil percolation, water tables from hands-on experience and observation. I've studied every line of the Riverside application and found it to be full of discrepancies, omissions, and contradictions. I'd like to bring a few to your attention, some key points that demonstrate how much damage this pit will do to my farm. Approved. Please refer, I've got a bunch of stuff I've sent to DEQ on all that. In reference to the application, page 11.8C number 1, I voiced my concerns multiple times to Stacy Hill in regard to both my springs and my water rights. However, in their answer, they do not address any of my concerns. I rely on these springs as year-round stock water. They are imperative to my farm. I believe this pit will cause them to dry up or considerably reduce flow. Will also contaminate the stock water. The first spring's about 300 to 350 feet away. The other one's about 175 feet away. That's where the cattle drink. It goes right up to his property. So it goes all the way then down to where I get the cattle for the water. Well, it's great concerns over Riverside's contention that no noxious weeds in the permitted area. I know there's Canadian thistle, bindweed, leafy spurge, knapweed. They're left off the permit. Pertaining to the water table in the permitted area, I've witnessed numerous episodes of over 3 feet of water in the basement of the old house. As a kid, I went down there with my irrigation boots on to get something out of there for the neighbor. I couldn't do it. Irrigation boots weren't deep enough. Then I've been asked by the neighbors that have farmed the place several times not to irrigate on my place come fall, certain times, because when I irrigated, the water would come up in the field and they would get stuck. Like I said, I've been there for 60 years. When this application was put in effect, Donis owned it for 40 days. And he knew all about what the water tables were. The water tables come to the surface a lot of the time.
Right,
30 inches.
Thank you, Sam. All right, we have Pixie, followed by Megan McQueen and Mary Alice. I think it's Petey.
No.
So, and I'd like those extra minutes, because I'm at 4 minutes, I know. Dixie Osborne, D-I-X-I-E-O-S-B-O-R-N. I go on record in total opposition to the proposed Donis pit, which in no way meets the laws set by Montana to protect the citizens of Shepherd. Groundwater is closer to the surface than identified. The plan does not accurately or adequately identify or protect the quality and quantity of surface water and shallow groundwater resources in the area. The site cannot be mined without encountering groundwater. My 2 shallow wells are less than 20 foot deep with water at 7 feet before irrigation season has even started. Currently, we have 20 gallons per minute of the best drinking water in Yellowstone County. I will be immensely harmed if they dig 20 foot down and dewater the entire basin. By law, you may not allow my quality or quantity of water to change. The landowner has stated the springs will go dry. DEQ needs a year-long hydrologic study to encompass all 4 seasons of the 2-mile area to see adequate effect that this will have on all resident wells, school, church wells, and natural springs. The overburden of polluted water to be pumped out of the pit may not, by Montana law, be allowed to run into an adjacent neighbor's land, into Crooked Creek and the river. An extensive stormwater plan must be developed. Solar heated water from the pit will raise water temperatures, doing harm to all wildlife, aquatic life, wetlands, and plants it encounters. The air pollution from the pit will be harmful, including silica and carcinogens and toxic gravel dust. DEQ and EPA should require on-site air pollution monitors at all times, and when dangerous levels set by Montana law are reached, mining should stop immediately. We request no blasting, no asphalt plants on site, as public health, air quality, and soil free from contamination cannot be guaranteed. We request no nighttime operations from 7 p.m. till 7 a.m., including no pit lights, no noise beepers on backup equipment, only overburdened soil and gravel permitted into the pit upon reclamation. No oils, asphalts, concrete, hazardous waste should be allowed for the protection and safety of our neighborhood in the future. DEQ and Yellowstone County are accountable for citizen safety. Adding 50,000 trucks to our rural resident roads is not in the best interest of any man, woman, or child in this community. 850 plus school children 2 times daily minimum are on these roads, at bus stops, walking, riding bikes, citizens walking nightly, track runners and bicyclists are seen daily. We value our children and residents.
30 seconds.
Losing even one is not acceptable. Fry Road to Highway 312 should be exclusively designated as the haul route, coming both coming and going to protect our residents in town site. Let them go past Donis's house instead of our school in town. We request gravel trucks and pups to be covered to minimize fallout on the roads and vehicles and prevent any loads from dropping or leaking into the road, like the wrecking ball that came from Donis's truck and killed the resident. Gravel trucks should not be allowed to run when the school buses are in service.
No, goodbye.
Thank you, Dixie. As we noted earlier, if folks, if you have more testimony than will fit in 3 minutes, please do stay. And when everyone's had an opportunity to deliver their comments in the order they signed up, we will stay so that you have an opportunity to give yours. So next up is Megan McLean, followed by Mary Alice Petey, I believe, and Melody Reinhardt.
Hi, my name is Megan McLean, M-E-G-A-N, M-C-L-E-A-N. I'm here on behalf of Katie Grove. Her name is K-A-T-I-G-R-O-V-E. She is a longtime friend and Shepherd resident who could not be here. I would like to share her comments with you, but first of all, I just wanted to say it appears to me that there are many people in this room who should consider running for public office in 2020. There was a House Joint Resolution this year that addressed specifically open cut mining and died after it passed through committee. So just food for thought. My name is Katie Grove and my property is located at 6933 Brave Lookout. Our property is 3,649 feet from the east boundary of the proposed site, a little less than 3/4 of a mile. We moved here just 8 months ago because we wanted to get away from the noise and stress of living in Billings. We looked at several homes before we found this one, but as soon as we did, we knew it was home. Perched atop a hill overlooking Crooked Creek Valley, it crossed off everything on our list with incredible sweeping views as a cherry on top. In fact, as we stood on the deck the first time we looked at it, a bald eagle circled overhead, riding the air currents high above the valley. Now, everything we worked so hard for, the literal blood, sweat, and tears we put into our previous fixer-upper home in order to earn the equity we needed to buy this home, is threatened by the proposed open-cut mine. If this permit is approved, we have one of two options. If we choose to sell the home we fell in love with, we stand to lose up to 1/3 of its value, and because we recently purchased, we will be upside down on our mortgage. How do you possibly recover those losses? How do you possibly purchase a new home when you come out $40,000 or more negative on the sale of your previous home? If we choose to stay, our quality of life is negatively impacted in several ways, but I want to touch on one of the concerns that on the one that concerns me the most, and that is the health of myself, my family, and all of my neighbors.